life. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's my first time doing this. Okay, where we manifest realities by what we speak. And today we are having a special guest and a special discussion on mental health. Our first episode called Most High. And we are celebrating Javon Rustin, who I'm going to read off some amazing things, even though this isn't even half of the amazing things that he does. But he is a mental health advocate, a regional slam champion, nationally ranked slam poet, a published poet, professional speaker, and Black joy advocate, and more and more and more and more. And an author of a new book, which is part of the theme of this episode called Always Been Most High. And so I am excited to have this conversation. Thank you for joining me
Yeah.
on
Thank you
this
for having me.
topic. Yes. I wanted to start off by saying you are one of the poets that really inspire me.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you.
say that because you take your craft so seriously. And I can tell I just have more of appreciation for the art of poetry when I hear you speak, because I think there's a difference between just doing it from the perspective of passion and combining both the artistic and creative side, putting more effort into it along with the passion, right? Because
Yeah.
I've been doing poetry for a long time, but as far as really getting into the craft of it, I would say I really just started within the last couple of years. And so just learning from my peers, understanding that it's not just passion, that it passion is cool, but
Hmm.
the creative taking time to do the word plays, the metaphors, and all of that is an art form,
Yeah.
right? And I think it takes time to understand the importance of that, because sometimes some people just aren't into that. It's like, look, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, and I have what I'm gonna say, and this is what it is. But with you, I really understand it more. So I just wanted to tell you that you
No,
really
I really
inspire a lot of
appreciate that.
people. Yes.
Yeah, I
And
definitely think poetry starts with like getting the emotion out, and if you choose to go beyond that, then yeah, put them literary devices in there. But the getting the emotions out is something for you. I think the literary devices is something for your audience.
oh, I love that. And you do training and coaching, right? Like you do workshops.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. How did you get into that?
People just started asking, and after it started taking up enough time, I was like, "Look, you guys, I can't do this for free anymore because it's taking up so much time." Um, so I do as much as I can. Like, people want to email me questions and stuff like that. I'm not going to charge for that, but like
Mm.
sessions where we're editing poems and like giving advice on slam tips and things like that. Yeah, yeah, that takes up more time.
Yes. I feel like we're slanted. I don't let's see if we can get a little bit more. Is that better? Maybe a little bit. Yeah. That's almost a little bit better. Um yeah, so we're talking about a few things today. We're going to talk about your book. But I also want
Hmm.
to get to mental health because this is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes, yes, it
And
is.
the reason why I wanted to speak to you is that I noticed that you speak a lot about mental health and you have your
Hmm.
own mental health story. And so I enjoy speaking to people who like to empower others, hence Speak Life podcasts,
Yes.
and who don't mind what they call bleeding on the sword for others, sharing their pain. Is it
Hmm.
hard for you to do poetry that kind of leaves you vulnerable? Like, do you find it even as a poet where you have the talent to express yourself very well? Do you still find it hard to be vulnerable?
Absolutely. And if I'm being honest, sometimes the metaphors and stuff that people really like are unfortunately ways to hide the message, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes I use like a lot of flowery language and it's covering something else. It's you're not saying the thing that needs to be said straight out. And it still sounds good. And I think there has to be some kind of balance of that when writing. Yeah, we want the flowery language, we want the punchlines, but you have to say what the emotion is straight out for yourself first, and then also for the sake of the audience, just to make sure they are grasping what needs to be grasped. Um, and it's very hard to do that, right? I I think it's natural for us to want to hide.
Mm,
But I also think the metaphors could be more of a magnifying glass, which they are supposed to
mm,
be. They're supposed to be a way of describing something that will be hard to describe without them, right?
okay.
But it's definitely difficult to dive into those emotions sometimes. Sometimes I have to write them out like without being poetic, and then come back and add some kind of literary device because you want. I think that is the main importance of poetry, to get those emotions out, and then the literary devices follow that.
I'm glad you said that because I think sometimes we compromise the integrity of our message sometimes for the literary device.
Mhm.
And because this may sound better, but what is your message?
Yeah,
Um, even in just rhyming, this rhymes. Is this what I wanted to really say? So
yeah,
it's not as easy as people think it is. It's definitely a true art form. And I always wonder with men, like male poets, how hard it is to be emotional, especially when we're speaking about, mental health and trauma can be a lot.
yeah.
Because, there's already a taboo, I think, when it comes to our community. Um, African American community, Black culture, and then even with men specifically, um, not feeling like you're weak or you're less of a man by expressing your emotions. I've heard so many men say they never felt safe. Um, they never felt safe enough to say how they really felt about certain things because or even just to be able to cry or just do certain things because they would feel judged for it.
Mhm.
Have you ever felt that way like in a relationship or just like you weren't safe to express yourself? Or or
Absolutely.
or
Yeah.
even so just to give it a step further on top of that, did you find it more safe on stage versus a relationship?
Um, that's definitely something that I know my entire family has struggled with. From the idea of just everybody. I have too much to deal with in order to give my time to express these emotions, right?
Mhm.
And that's not healthy. You're like, it's going to keep piling on unless you actually deal with it. Um, and then as a guy, they always told me boys don't cry. My cousins
Mm.
was macho, like everybody, and I'm over here writing poems and wearing like flowers on my clothes and stuff. So even when I was young, like my mom was not. She was, if you fight, if somebody picks on you, go fight them, right? That was my
Mhm.
mother, and she grew out of that eventually. So I got the soft side. I got encouraged to express my emotions. Um, but it was because she was encouraged to express her emotions as she got older. She had things that she was dealing with that she didn't address, abuses from her childhood,
Mm.
and like did not deal with them until like late 20s. And as she was dealing with those and seeing what she needed to do, she also encouraged me to do the same thing, right? So she
Mhm.
always wanted to make sure I didn't suffer the way she did, not only in abuse, but also in not being able to speak up. Um, so yeah, that definitely helped.
Mm.
I have. I don't have very long relationships in which I could not express myself because I'm
Mm.
gonna express myself. They're just not gonna like
Yeah.
it. um, but I definitely had like backlash, like poetry is soft, crying is soft, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, well, I'm probably going to do it anyway, so this isn't going to work out. Um, but I know there are relationships in which people don't feel comfortable. I personally, uh, I feel like if I have this level of comfort with my immediate circle, when I expand that circle to relationships or new friends, you have
Mhm.
to be at or as good as my current circle. And my current circle
Mhm.
lets me express myself. So as far as new people to date, they didn't get very far if I wasn't able to express myself.
Have you ever felt like you were protecting, or have you ever decided not to tell someone how you felt to protect their feelings? Or have you always been kind of just like, this is what it is? This isn't to be, offensive. This is just how I feel.
Um, if I'm protecting their feelings, it's probably something that's not going to be heinous if I hold it in, right?
Mm,
Um, like I don't know. I don't have to tell everybody something that I don't like about them.
yeah.
It's a feeling, but is it going to hurt them if I don't tell them? Probably not. Um, if somebody is expecting something of me, like a relationship or a commitment, and I'm not feeling that, that's something you might want to not hold in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've definitely been expressive in that manner. Um, and I also feel like it's a lose lose sometimes. Like if you hold it in, you're beating yourself up. And this is what I think a lot of
Mhm.
I would guess that a lot of men feel, right. If you hold it in, you're beating yourself up. If you let it out, oftentimes there is no matter how well you said this is not working out. If it is not working out for you, but it is working out for them, you're a bad person.
Mm,
You expressed the wrong emotion. You should you're wrong. And there's no right way around that. I just think everybody involved, both men and women, could uh, be more open to what people are expressing. Right.
mhm, mhm,
Allow those emotions to be validated before there's the reaction. Right.
mhm,
Uh, I acknowledge what you feel, even if I don't like it. This is something that you feel. That doesn't make you wrong. Your emotions are not wrong. Now you can express them incorrectly.
mhm.
Don't curse people out just because you don't like them. Say I don't like this.
I
So
like that.
communication.
I like that because even though you have things that you would like to get off your chest, you're still taking their feelings into consideration. And I think that comes with a level of emotional intelligence, which I know a lot of people don't like that term. But like I know like these are things that you learn over time, right? We don't get automatically know, okay, how to handle the situation. Let me protect how they feel, but also be able to articulate my concerns while protecting their emotions. Like that takes
Right.
a level of maturity. And even when you spoke on validation, like as a man, even as it relates to mental health and just, it's all connected. I'm definitely going to get into that more, but just the feeling of validation, I feel like a lot of men struggle with getting the validation that they need, or women even taking accountability. Was that ever a struggle with you?
Um. Yeah, I definitely had. And so like, I think I dated someone. I'm not gonna say any names, of course, but like I dated
Yeah.
someone whose father was like a police officer, and like he trained the officers on how to fight, and so him, her brother, everybody in the family, er. And so when I would try to bring up like emotional stuff, she didn't like poetry. First off, I feel like that should have been a sign for me. Um,
Yeah.
so when I would try to bring up these things, it would definitely like, oh, that's soft. It's soft because my dad wouldn't do it. It's soft because my brother wouldn't do it. Ma'am, your brother, never mind. And so I felt those things, and honestly, she's not wrong. But what would be wrong is for me to stay knowing my emotions disagree with what she's saying. What makes her not wrong is if you were attracted to that, go find that. Go
Yeah.
find you a macho man that don't express. I get that. He is not wrong. He is probably expressing his emotions in his own way. Instead of saying I love you, he
Mhm.
cooks dinners and plants flowers. I will say I love you a bunch of times. She might not like that. That is fine. What would be wrong is for me to stay and allow myself to be then abused by
Yeah.
something that wouldn't be abuse if she was with somebody that was for her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the communication in relationships is a lot of, if we don't work out, then something was wrong. Honestly, if y'all break up, that relationship was still a success if you didn't abuse each other.
Oh my goodness, that is so true. I always say that sometimes it's not that the person was bad or whatever. Sometimes it's just a matter of compatibility. But even to touch on the abuse, right? The emotional abuse, which of course can affect depression, self-esteem, mental illness. I think often, even just as a woman, when we say things like "you're not man enough" or "a man wouldn't do this," we don't realize that we're being emotionally
Yeah.
abusive. Like that's, uh, and it works both ways, right? And I think that that's a very necessary conversation because when anytime a man talks about being abused, I've seen it with my own eyes. You know, you have people like clowning, like, what? Men get abused. But yes, men, even if it's not physical, men can get abused even on an emotional level where they're constantly being beat up about everything, not being a man enough about whatever, not being good enough or whatever, and that is a form of emotional abuse. Have you ever gone through that or have any perspective on that emotional abuse?
I do not think I've ever been purposely like emotionally abused, and I'm not saying like, how do I phrase this? No, no, not me personally. I've definitely heard stories, and I've seen it.
Mhm.
I know people, women in my family that are very mean, like,
Mhm.
and so like, and if I dug into that, I would see that before they got into a relationship, which I viewed them as mean, they had a bunch of relationships in which they had to defend themselves. And now their line is like, hey, no, you don't step over this line at all, or else. They have higher boundaries now. I have uh my mom worked at like she worked in a prison, right, as a nurse, and so she
Okay.
would tell me these stories, right. um so I know of a scenario in which a guy robbed a bank because he was being told that he didn't have enough money by his wife, right, and he was supposed to take care of the family, he was supposed to do these things as a man. And we had these conversations all the time. My mom would bring home, hey, this is what happened, what do you think
Yeah.
about this? um and so we determined that, like, because he had no rap sheet, that was his first crime ever. It was a mental breakdown, right?
Mhm.
That he had because he was being abused into thinking that this is what he's supposed to do as a man. If he can't,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
not worth not robbing the bank, right? Whatever consequences come with it. And he didn't. He like wrote a note. It wasn't like a good robbery either. Um,
Yeah.
So no, I've been lucky enough to be with, whether it worked out or not. I've had very loving relationships. Um, have I felt manipulated at times?
Oh my goodness, I'm thinking about that.
Form of abuse, you know. Um, but I also think that there is I, all relationships are two-way streets, right? So I think that on my end, and I'm always going to try to bring it back to what I could have done. It's held my boundaries up higher. There are plenty of times where I was like, I'm gonna let this slide. I'm gonna let this slide for X amount of time, and then when X amount of time came, I was like, oh, I'll let it slide some more. So manipulation also could have had higher boundaries.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
I
that
literally
was,
manipulation came to my mind too because I think even still, even with like emotional abuse, sometimes there's a form of manipulation. I feel like we're so good at it too. You know, as women, just, asking for things, wanting things, but it can become very toxic. It's a very fine line between just trying to get a little something and just being emotional, like mentally, constantly trying to manipulate someone's emotions to get what you want out of them. Like that's not
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I think there needs to be like a lot of honest communicating,
Yeah.
in which you are no, you're not afraid to hurt someone's feelings, but you are considerate of their feelings. You know, and I feel like a lot of times both men and women will either say what they think someone wants to hear, especially men when they try to run the idea of running game is basically saying what you think they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Damn your personality, damn all the things that you are actually interested in. Don't bring up your hobbies. Just say what you think she is interested in. That was the idea of game from like high school up until,
Yeah.
I don't know. It might still be the idea. I don't know. I
I'm
don't be
sure
saying
it is. I mean, I'm completely oblivious. I just be naive thinking people really mean what they say.
are being nice.
I wanted to ask you, I think I remember you saying or speaking about, do you have mostly women in your family? Or is it like a mix?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Mostly women. I mean, how has that shaped you as a person?
Um, I feel like I have a very, I don't want to say like I have a good idea of what women go through. I don't, but I've heard
Okay.
stories of their abuse so often that I am very adamantly against it. Like, um, if I hear about it now, I'm furious.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's really upsetting because I know how far it can go. I know how far it has gone from my family. Like my grandma literally had to fight almost everybody she's been with. Um, so yeah, the just those stories in general have made me more sympathetic and more observant to what I do and what my friends do. Um, it can be like I don't know. I feel like it could be a slippery slope, especially with guys and aggression. The idea of rough versus like dog. You definitely didn't get permission to do that. Like, um, and it's. I feel like more guys should know these stories. Like, I want my family story in a book. I want y'all to know that this is not uncommon. As I grew up, I started hearing these stories from like everywhere. I don't know if I could probably name like women on one hand that I know that have not had some kind of abuse. Um,
Yeah.
and so, because my family has been so open with me, um, they don't say it as like, oh, this happened and I don't know the other side. They tell me what the man did, how close he was to the family, where he was, what he said, how he manipulated everybody else. Um, Does it make me kind of apprehensive to trust? Yeah, very much so. All I hear is stories of abuse, but um, I think it's something that we need to be aware of, or else it'll continue. Like you ought to know the signs of when your homeboy is kind of abusive. You should check him.
Oh my goodness, yes. Men, and that's men, women, all of us. We gotta hold our friends, our family, whomever accountable. It is so important. Accountability is so important because sometimes it takes that friendship to say, "Look, I love you, but you're wrong. You're wrong in this situation." And what else came to mind while you were speaking is that I always think of women more so as like women empowerment advocates, or even just what's the term, feminist, or
Uh-huh.
but I feel like I just got a semi revelation that yes, men can be, can definitely, even though I've seen men do like women empowerment events, I think I have a better understanding now because you may have been in situations where you've been around a lot of women and you understand their story just as much as the next person, and you may have a passion there that may not be like the next person because of your relationships and your experiences with women in your family or friendships or whatever, may give you a passion for women where you can be a women empowerment advocate. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you can't be um advocate for men too, but I
Yeah.
just think that, I personally primarily think of women, but I feel that from you that you could literally have like all these women empowerment poems, or just poems that really or a message within you that speaks on these things.
I could, but I feel like and also for women empowerment events, although I would happily go, I would, if I had it, I would make sure that the main speaker is a woman.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
um, but I also like to call men out. Like I feel like it is important, um, and not like you did this. I'm not gonna call no names. I don't know. But I do think it is important to address some of the things that could lead to the aggravation. If men don't go to therapy, bro, you're going to be angry, and that anger is going to come out. Men that tell me that they don't cry, I
Mm,
feel like that's a super red flag to me. I'm like, oh, well, it's coming out somewhere, and we don't know where. So you telling me you
yeah.
don't cry is making me apprehensive now, because like,
Mm.
where is it gonna come out? Usually it's through the fist, and
Ooh.
that's right. I do try to. speak. And I feel like a lot of times poetry in general is geared towards women. um there's not a lot of poetry that's geared towards men, how men should heal, how they should notice their own abusive tendencies, how they should definitely be encouraged to go to therapy, to cry, how this doesn't make you any less of a man, how it probably makes you a healthier man actually.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so um also I have very zero tolerance for like abuse. I think if they show a hint of it once, you
Mhm.
should leave. Um, outside of that, my advice would be like probably my advice would not be good. I have a mother that always said they got to go to sleep. Are you threatening to like? Never mind. If I say what she was threatening to do, she's gonna go to jail. She just said they got to go to sleep. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, I think my advice would be dark. Hurt
oh,
them. I don't want to know because people get away with it.
yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
And it's scary. You never know how far. I feel like somebody, a poet friend, this year actually, and I saw them in December. In
Mhm.
January, I found out they passed from domestic violence. Like the whatever action we can take, even if it's small, take it.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. You said something very powerful, right? A man who doesn't cry is a red flag because you said it manifests in anger.
Yeah,
And I know that we kind of spoke about like a lot of, I don't think a lot of people realize that anger is just a manifestation of just built up
yeah,
emotions or whatever you're going through. And it happened because you don't want to cry or you don't want to seem weak or whatever. You don't feel safe. So anger is the only way that you learn how to express it, right?
yeah.
Um, and so I
I was
know,
always taught that it was a secondary emotion.
mm, mm. And I know that you said that you dealt with anger, right, with your mental health a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was my go-to. Sometimes still is, but not. I've learned to look within when I feel that anger instead of trying to like, you did this, you did this, you did this.
Mhm.
So yeah, and it would be for me, like I will feel like everything is going wrong, and if one little thing got added onto it, it all just went to shit, and I would be furious. And so nobody else would see the the job situation. They would just see the fact that I lost that one parking spot, and now I'm going crazy. Um,
Mm,
but
mhm.
but before I got to that parking spot, my boss pissed me off. I found out I was being
Yeah.
underpaid. There was some other racial shit that happened on the train. I don't know. Then I tried to find this parking spot and it's gone. I'm furious. Um,
So,
and
mhm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I didn't want to cut you off because I want to be one of those interviewers that listens before I speak. But I was thinking to myself, if someone who's listening, who go back to replay or may see it on the social media, who deals with anger, what advice would you give them on how to manage that? Or do you have any like coping tools that you use to manage your anger?
Um, I definitely take. I meditate. I take my deep breaths. I will count to 10. Count each. One, two, three, four, all the way up to 10. I'll do that twice. I do body scans where like you just try to sense where the anger is in your body.
Hmm.
Usually it's like in the back, like my neck gets warm. My fiance, her jaw will get tense. Um, um, I go for walks. I exercise. Uh,
Hmm.
like if I'm angry at that moment, I'll go for a walk. Um, I feel like it is usually best for me to take like 5 minutes away from everyone else just to figure out how I'm going to go forward. And the main thing is because with the issue with the anger, right? If it was just me, yeah, it's first off, it is unhealthy for yourself. It causes high blood pressure, it causes other all these other health things. But the reason I started is because it was
Wait a
unhealthy
minute.
for my relationships. Um,
I have blood
so
pressure and
just physical things, cholesterol, high blood pressure, stress. Stress is probably a very big killer in the black community.
that explains.
And yeah, yeah, and but the reason I started going was because of the way it affected my relationship. So I step away um, from people, and my obligation to those relationships requires me to calm down.
Mm,
Um, and that was first, even though the obligation to myself probably should have been first. We treat ourselves not so well sometimes. But the obligation to myself is also there. The obligation to calm down for the future that I want to have with these relationships. Um, Especially as I was getting older, I feel like going off the handle in your early 20s, all right, you're going to recover from that the next day. Your relationships may recover, but we have more at stake. People are dealing with their families. People don't have the time to worry about why you're angry in an unhealthy way when they also have their own issues going on. Their advice is going to be, bro, go deal with that. That's what my friends told me. Go deal with that. We can't help you with that. You are flying off the handle of us. You are now hurting us because of something you're not dealing with. So yeah, I think we definitely have a responsibility to take care of ourselves for our own physique, for our own physical health, as well as for the relationships that we hope to preserve.
absolutely. I want to address two things because I never heard of the term anger being located in your body. Is there like anything scientific or any study where anger in certain parts of your body means certain things, or like how does it?
I feel like there was, but I don't recall what it
Oh,
was. Like emotions show up in certain places. I feel like sadness is usually like in the gut or the heart area.
mhm.
But I felt like there was also like a visual that I saw where if this part of your body is this emotion will affect this part of your body. Um, but I don't remember. But there is some science behind it
Okay.
because all of the emotions are chemicals, and chemicals um, in high concentration,
Hmm.
do what chemicals do. Um, they affect you. Um, so yeah, I know that stress uh, has been related to like cancer and uh, just poor health in general. Um,
It's so amazing how everything's connected as far as just like how stress can affect, even traumas can be connected to, to something generational, which could then affect other parts of your physicality, your health, which then in turn could affect your mental health. Like everything's just so connected, and I feel like when whatever we neglect, it's going to manifest in some way. It'll be
yeah.
in your body, it'll be in your mental state, it'll be in your emotional state. But you mentioned something about obligation to yourself, right?
Hmm.
Pretty much prioritizing yourself, which made me think of like self-care, right?
Hmm.
So that's a big word now. Do you practice self-care, and like how do you prioritize like your self-care, and does that help with like your mental health and
Absolutely. I try to read every day.
mm,
That's my moment of peace. I try to do something that is funny, that is peaceful, and that is moving, like some kind of exercise or a walk.
peace,
Um,
funny, moving?
yeah.
Okay.
The peaceful will be me reading a book. Um, and then something funny, I try to find something online. I try to watch comedy shows. I'll try to make my own jokes. Um, Something funny. That's my thing. I love to watch like stand up. Um, I feel like when I lost my friend Rage, um, I went on like a stand up binge. I watched nothing but stand up. Um, by the time I got out of it, I was like, oh, I want to talk to audiences now. Like, so I like this is the kind of energy that I bring to stages, because the comedians would talk about these serious things. That Neil Brennan, oh my gosh, Neil Brennan was a saint. He would talk about his bouts with depression, and he would do it and lead up to a joke, right?
Mhm.
So now I'll talk about things and I'll lead up to a poem, and it'll start out kind of funny, but I want it to be at the end of it is serious. I want it to lead up to a poem. I try to do that in like feature sets, just to add stuff to it, right?
Okay. To get
And
diversity a little.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like I went sideways somewhere with that question, but I definitely do my self care,
So you
and it
did.
helps to have a partner that is also very supportive of my self care, because she needs it as well, right? So she'll do her things, and if I tell her, "Hey, this is for me," I'm gonna go do my thing. Um, yeah, it's very helpful.
It is because I feel like when you're young and you're in these relationships, you may be a little bit more clingy. You may want to spend all your time, but when you get older, you're like, do your thing. I need to do my
Yeah,
And-
yeah, and I actually like if she hasn't done something for herself in a while, I will schedule it for her. Like, hey, yeah, you need to go. You need to
yeah,
go de-stress somewhere. Go away.
yeah,
Um,
yes. I think even just as a creative, it's so important to date someone or be in a relationship with someone who has their own thing, their own passion, their own purpose, because they'll see you out doing things, living in your purpose, and they may be home, watching the view and building up all this resentment because they just want to spend time with you.
yeah,
And it's like, you're not going to make me feel guilty because I have purpose and you don't. You want to stay home. You don't have anything to do. You want to manipulate my emotions to feel bad, to want to be home watching Netflix with you, every night.
yeah,
But when you have someone that is motivated like you, yes, it may take more time management, more planning when it comes to spending time together because you still need more quality time by yourself because you're doing so much. But if you could find someone that can understand that, that has their own purpose where you can balance those two things together, that's a beautiful thing because it's so hard, especially when you're highly requested, right? And when you're booked to try to manage a relationship with a person who may not understand that my purpose isn't up for negotiation.
yeah. And then even outside of like being booked, you have to practice for these shows, right? And so like yeah, I'm free. I don't have anything on my calendar, but I I have to practice these poems.
Yeah, I have to prepare. I need time. I need silence. Oh my gosh, that used to bother me so much about my ex. I know this isn't about me, but it's like he used to just like I'll be like, I need time, and he'll just be like, oh, and just start talking to me. I'm like, in the middle of my creativity, you're messing up my vibe. I may never get back whatever I was thinking again because you have prioritized whatever you want to say, which isn't important, over the time that I told you I needed.
Yeah,
Have
yeah,
have you ever dealt with that?
yeah, absolutely. I have. Let me think. Yeah, mostly in college. I feel like the time, and I was always been like a workaholic. Like I gotta get my papers done. I gotta work on these poems. I gotta do things. I want to go see my people. I want to do stuff. And so in college, it would definitely be difficult because it always seemed like I was not doing the thing that everybody else was supposed to be doing. Right? Everybody else wanted to like go, and I did. Don't get me wrong. I partied. I definitely partied. But the people that I also often find myself at the party with were the people that I was also doing work with. We would leave the parties and then go work on our assignment. We would work on our assignment and then go straight to the party. There wasn't a lot of outside of that, right?
Mhm.
But as I got older and those qualities didn't change, I feel like I just started finding people that fit in with those qualities, people that also work. Um, Not that people didn't work, but like when I get off of my 9 to 5, I still have things to do for poetry, and I usually do to like 10 o'clock at night. Um, But that also means my responsibility is to carve out time for my fiance. So whether it's like an hour at night where we're both watching the same show, or at least one date every 2 weeks, like we go somewhere non-poetry related.
Mhm.
Um, but she's also an actor. So when I'm doing stuff, she probably has uh, auditions, plays, gigs. It's her thing is actually a lot busier than mine. If she has a play, she's gone like 4 hours a day for like 3 months.
Mhm.
I have shows. I practice usually by myself for like an hour a day. That's about it.
That's about it. I like how you said carve out time because if you're just kind of winging it, it may not
Yeah, it
work.
doesn't work.
Like
It
you have
doesn't
to
work.
be intentional in relationships. I think, especially when you're busy, this carving out that time, not scheduling anything during that time, and prioritizing that time. Otherwise, if you're just winging it, maybe we'll have time here, maybe we'll have time there. I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah, I don't think it would. Because things come up. Like, and once those events come up, I need to be able to say, "Hey, no, I had this date already panned out." Now, if they paying enough, I'm sure she'll understand.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I can't cancel my date with her for like a $25 gig. She wouldn't be happy with that.
I want to kind of circle back a little bit. You were talking about your mother and kind of what she went through, and how she managed that and how she kind of taught you some things, right?
Hmm.
And I wanted to ask you, like, do you think in any way anything that she's been through may have affected you on a mental health level, or even just with your personal story, rather, and just with mental health? Like, how did mental health affect you? What were your mental health issues, if you would like to share?
Um, so her story affecting me, um, both good and bad. I think it gave me I can't make excuses, right? Like I've seen what mom went through, I've seen what my grandma went through. Um, so there's not a lot that life can throw at me and sit me down. Um, you, it's my life has been astronomically easier than what my grandma and my mom and my aunts and uncles have been through.
Mhm.
Um, so when that's how it affected me positively. There are things that will happen. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna get through it. Um, Negatively, uh, you can't get through everything like that.
Mhm.
You just can't. Um, you can't muscle your way through everything. It'll show up. Um, and that's something I've learned like this year. Trying to muscle my way through mourning, trying to just keep everything going. Because I felt like that's what my mom and my grandma would do.
What can you
I think,
explain how that muscle your way through? Do you mean like try to find ways to not deal with it, or what is
yeah,
your?
you don't really stop and process it. You fill up your schedule.
Okay, stay busy.
You Yeah, you stay busy. You try a bunch of different ways to avoid the thing that'll make you cry.
Mm,
Um, and what I'm learning is that the thing that'll make you cry, the tears are going to come out. Now, mine may not come out through abuse, but mine have shown in stress.
mhm.
Um, there's definitely been like health issues that have been related to that stress. Um, and I think that muscling through was something that I kind of got from my mom, right? Um, Also, think it also specifically still talking about my mom's and what her journey gave to me. Um, Negatively, it gave me somewhat of a lack of empathy. Uh,
Mm.
which I am now reversing as I am realizing I can't muscle my way through things. I don't know what people were going through. I just know that if my mom went through what she went through and got what she got, you can hustle.
Mhm.
And although that may be true, at the point that I'm at right now, where I've
Mm.
been like more, so many people have passed this year. Um, if anybody that I thought could hustle was going through that situation where they had so many people pass, I I wouldn't have thought that. I completely understand. Don't hustle. Sit at home. Lay down. You deserve that rest.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and so I think my empathy is growing now, as well as my mom's, as she's seeing like the people pass and the way it's affecting her. But before that, we were definitely like, nah, no excuses. Get
I'm
to
sorry.
it.
Are you saying passing away as in just like through natural causes, or are you saying like
Sickness, natural causes. No, mostly sickness.
no?
Sickness.
Mhm.
Um, sickness, suicide,
Okay.
uh, unhealth, overdosing.
Mm.
Is that it?
So I guess you came to the conclusion that everyone doesn't have the same capacity for.
Right. And we have to, uh, even if we don't see it, we have to respect ourselves on our capacity. Right. Even if somebody else, even if my boss thinks I should be working, he don't know what I've been through that day.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure I respect my boundaries. For my health, I am responsible for myself, and if I don't take care of myself, I can't even do that job correctly.
And that, it's so like you said that because I can't even get the words together. I'm sorry, but it just when you said that, it made me think of how I was feeling one day, and I had written down these jobs don't care about mental illness. These bills, they don't care about mental illness. Um, Nobody cares because at the end of the day, you still have to show up. You still have to do everything you need to do, battle your battle with what you're going in you, and it's hard because they don't understand. Hey, I can't. I'm dealing with tormenting thoughts, suicidal depressors. You know, especially if you can technically hold down a job, you're having a mental breakdown one day. Nobody cares.
Mm-mm, they don't.
Um, they don't.
I think
They're
there
there
are.
for that.
I think the jobs are improving as the younger generations are kind of getting into the fields. Um, my job itself is an improvement.
Hmm.
Um, is it the best? Probably not. Um, but it's definitely an improvement from where I was um, before. I like in I think 2016, 2017, I quit to like be a full-time artist. And when I came back to corporate America, I came back and I was applying and telling them, hey, this is what I do. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to work. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of jobs were laughing like, why? Why would we let you work? You want to work anytime you want. Why would we let you do that? Like, I'm a poet. I want to work from home so I can go to speaking engagements. Why would we let you do that? Um, but I remembered where I came from in the previous job. I'm like, no, there's no reason in going back to corporate America if I'm going to continue to be this depressed. So I held up that boundary, and I probably would have dropped it if it took too long. I'm gonna be honest, but I found a job that came close to that boundary, and they seem to be very supportive of the artist and their company. Um, I can draw up some complaints if I really wanted to. I can, but
Hmm.
um, from first start, they were very supportive of the artist and the company, flexible, um, and I think more jobs are going in that direction. I hope more jobs are going in that direction.
Me too. I swear, I that has been my major struggle. I'm not even going to lie. With corporate America, there may be some amazing public speaking events that I have to turn down because I have to work. And if you don't have the PTO, and even if you do, like eventually it's going to run out, right?
Mhm.
that you're gonna
Yeah.
account for different things. So, I feel like that's where I'm at right now because like I'm not gonna let go of a huge amazing opportunity. I just can't do it because I don't know if this is going to escalate me to the next level or not. And I don't
Right.
want out on this being on TV or whatever the case may be because I have to build people. I mean, I did,
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah.
I in a building. That is a huge, huge struggle with me. I actually recently had to resign because of some crazy stuff that was happening at my job. And I think a lot of creatives deal with just feeling depressed, not feeling fulfilled, or even just the stress of a 9 to 5 and then fully away after our first it's and draining and depressing. I think you touched on
Say it again.
I think you touched on that you have dealt with depression.
Absolutely. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
How
Oh
how did
yeah.
that start and like how do you manage it or how did you get through that?
As far as how it started, um, so depression has always been weird for me, especially even when like I was sad as a child because
Mhm.
life is good, right? Um, but because life was good, I felt like I wasn't allowed to complain about things.
Mhm.
Uh, so how it started, I don't know. I could have been sad in high school, but I couldn't tell anybody. Um, I definitely had a hard time making friends. It took me a while to find my personality, I would say. um, I
Mhm.
was military brat, so I was moving around a lot. um, so Durham is where I spent most of my life, but by the time I got there, I felt like I was just trying on different cities and seeing which one would allow me to fit in. And the
Yeah.
one that I came from, Massachusetts, was not that one. It it was not the one to help me fit in. It did quite the opposite. Um, so it took a while to like make friends and even accept myself. Um, now I don't think that happened to like college, where I was like, oh, actually, my traits are welcomed somewhere, even if I didn't find my circle, right? And then I realized it wasn't even about finding your circle. It was just about accepting my own traits. You can be cool anywhere if you like yourself. You could be cool anywhere if you like yourself. Know how to make yourself sound interesting. I don't care if it's Pokemon or computers. If you like it and you can make it sound interesting, that's cool. Um, so it wasn't until I got to college and I was computer science major, and I'm sorry, they won't. If you don't think it's interesting, you're not going. Nobody else is going to think it's interesting. So even if you try to come up with like fake interest that you think can make you fit in, it's not going to sell because you're not interested in it. And it wasn't until college that I saw other people into computers and stuff, and I was like, oh, like there's a group of people who have these like outgoing personalities. They're not shy, they're not nerdy, they just like computers. You don't have to put yourself into this bubble just because of your interest, right? You can be anything. And yeah, it just took me a while to embrace that. Um, so I think that's where it started when I was like at a young age. I think it definitely uh, revealed itself a lot more when I moved to Dallas. Um, because I moved there with like no family members, right? I moved and there was an internship that I was supposed to have. I had graduated.
Mhm.
Um, there was an internship that I was supposed to have, and I had another one in North Carolina where I have family, but they were like, "We will keep you here if you go get your master's," which I have now, but
Okay.
I didn't want to do that then. I didn't want to do
Woo!
that then. Yes, it is over. I'm never going back to school. I didn't want to do that then. Um, so I went to this other company that was supposed to offer me a full time position. And after the summer, it didn't turn into full time. Like management had switched or whatever, and it didn't turn into full time. So I was just out there. Now I got a job very quickly, but I took a pay cut, and so I'm out there. And honestly, to this day, it's still kind of embarrassing if I'm being honest. A lot of my friends were getting full time offers, not internships. Um,
Yeah.
and I took a pay cut. A lot of them were getting raises at the time that I was taking a pay cut. Um, so even though I was in Dallas and I was making it on my own, which is something I think is brag worthy. You know, you went out there, you had no job, you had nobody, and you made it. I was comparing myself to everybody else. I think social media is a deviant when it comes to that.
Ooh,
Um, I definitely compared myself, everybody else. I didn't share my wins. I didn't share anything like that. Um, I found out I was being underpaid. It was it was it was probably like two black people in the company total. Um, I was being paid like $100,000 less than my coworker who had the same job title. Um,
that's a crazy thousand
yeah, it
dollars
was
less.
wild. He was asking, he was like, "You not getting paid six figures yet?" I was like, "You're getting paid six figures?" He's like, "Yeah, I get paid such and such. I don't
Okay.
have a problem." It's like, what?
Yeah.
um, and it was just sad. Like I would cry on my way to work. But
Mm,
they had this thing where they would give you this bonus every year on the year that you started working, on the date that you started working. They would give you this bonus, and they would give you a stipend of that bonus throughout the year. And if you didn't stay until the date that you get the full bonus, you would have to pay whatever the stipend was back. So like every year I try to like it was like playing double dutch. How do I get out of this thing? Oh, I missed it. All right, I'm here for another year.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Um yeah,
Who wants to pay that back? That is entrapment. I'm sorry. They don't want people to leave, so they give you this bonus, and then you actually, because you're not getting paid equal pay. I don't know what your pay was, but maybe you were calculating that as a part of your income to pay your bills or whatever. And so, who wants to pay that back
right.
when you've been doing that for your cost of living? You know,
Yeah.
that's terrible. Just give me the money. Like,
Yeah.
why would
Yeah.
they do it like that? That's crazy.
Um Yeah, and so as that all of that was going on, I'm still trying to do poetry, right? I'm still in the poetry community. That's like my saving grace. That's the one fun thing that I like to do. I get off work, I write. I'm probably writing during work. Honestly, this whole time I'm at the job, I'm doing research. I am researching, especially when my friends start telling me that I have anger problems, right? And I
Hmm.
never thought I had anger problems because again, I grew up in a family that's here, we got problems, we punch things. And I didn't do that. I just raised my voice and cursed things out. That's not as bad, but it is kind of bad. Um, so as my friends were telling me that this is like anger problems, I started doing research on everything. I found someone, is it Mark Manson? I think his name is Mark Manson. I used to read his blog all the time. He had blogs on like neurons in the brains, just stages of life, theories of love, all kinds of things. And I would spend hours on the workday just reading that stuff. And that kind of what got me started as like a mental health advocate, just learning the ways the body works um, internally.
Hmm.
The way that we learn, the way that we practice things, the way that we create habits by just doing the same thing over and over again. Um, and so I started analyzing my habits, right? And the things that would happen when I am angry, right? Um, and what would happen for me is everything. It was usually something small that caused me to blow up. Because of something I had control of. I know I can find another parking spot, but it's making me mad right now. But the things that I didn't have control of, those were the things that were unexposed. The job situation I felt like I didn't have control of. So if the fact that my family that I really wanted to be around was all the way in North Carolina, um, all of these things felt like a pressure. And so with anything added onto that, it was too much. Um, so I went to
Hmm.
therapy to kind of learn how to not only hold up boundaries before it gets there. Like
Mhm.
if I notice I'm getting angry, I should probably walk away. If I notice I'm getting angry, I shouldn't continue to do the thing that I know is going to irritate me, even if it's going to please other people. Because if I am unpleased, I promise they will no longer be pleased. And then I'm the
Yeah.
party pooper.
Yeah.
Um, and we talk about um, boundaries, and I just don't think I had healthy ones. I think I was definitely um, not taking care of myself because I wanted to be
Please.
accepted or I wanted to be in the group, right? So instead of going home and getting the rest that I needed or exercising like I was supposed to, if everybody else was going to party, oh, word, let's go party. Um, and then I would find myself upset that I wasn't at home. And now I'm taking it out on everybody. That's weird. That's not their fault. That's me. I should have held to my boundaries. Um, and so therapy kind of helped me get a balance on that, on noticing when I'm angry
Mhm.
before it blows up, setting healthy boundaries for myself and for the benefit of the relationships that I hope to preserve. Um, yeah, that was my therapy benefit.
Analyzing your habits, that is so powerful. Just, learning yourself. So often we don't
Yeah.
even pay attention. And that's why they say sometimes when you're in relationships, your significant other knows you more than you know yourself. And sometimes they intentionally trigger you to get what they need from you. But that is so powerful to take time to notice, oh, I'm doing this. This triggered me. Maybe write that down. Get here. What can I do to prevent the like all of that is so much intentional. I feel like that's another form of self-care. Like we were
Mhm.
talking about earlier, because you're taking the steps, the going to therapy and being intentional about making yourself better, not even just for someone else, but just for yourself and for people who are around you. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I really think therapy helps with that. You'll tell them, "Hey, this is what happened," and they'll say, "Hey, did it happen like this? Did it happen like this? Did it happen
Mhm.
like this?" They're saying the same thing like three different times, but from
Yeah.
different perspectives. And and I know a lot of people, even like people in my family, they are just uh not not really adamant about therapy, right? They'll say
Wait,
they're not adamant about therapy. I'm
what I
sorry, go
do?
ahead.
Haiku. You gotta say it back.
Haku.
You'll never heal if your therapist is the voice of your perspective. That would fit right I mean with what you were saying. I love this people love that haiku, but that's so true. Like when you're going through stuff, you can only see it from your perspective. So you may not see the entire picture. So
Yeah.
therapy is so important. And I'm sorry to cut you off.
No,
Continue.
you're fine. Because if
Yeah.
they're doing, and not only from their perspective, they're doing it from the perspective of people who are biased. Those people love you. Your mama loves you
Mhm.
and is not about to tell you anything, even if you were wrong.
Yeah.
I could probably tell my mom that like I hit a body. She'd be like, "Well, what did they do to you?" your
Funny.
your mom is going to be on your side. Your the people that love you are going to be on your side. They're going to be biased. Um, outside of that, you might be asking some questions that they don't know the answer. That happens to me a lot, and I'm like, yo, one or two times. I understand. You were asking me something you just wanted to get off your chest. But if you're asking me this consistently, bro, I am not trained. You
Mm.
need to talk to a professional.
Yeah. Don't use me as your therapist. This is not my skill set.
Because if I run out of patience, my answer is going to change. Your therapist is there getting paid. They're not going to
Yeah.
run out of patience.
Yeah.
If you call me and I'm in the middle of a meeting, my answer is going to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
But your therapist isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. You touched on boundaries, healthy boundaries. Can you talk about that just a little bit? Like, what does a healthy boundary look like to you?
A healthy boundary to me, I think it's just being able to say no to people that you care about, right? Um,
Woo!
um,
That's so true.
which
Like,
is hard because I know there are people that I could say no to, and they'll be like, "All right, cool, we're still cool." And then there are people that I could say no to, and they'll be like, it's a big deal."
oh,
And that used to get to me. It
mm.
it doesn't as much.
You know what? That
But it doesn't as much because I've seen what happens when I don't hold up my boundaries. Right? There are just places that I'm not willing to go back to, and sometimes that means my boundaries are like too high. Right? I'm like, I could have been nicer about that. Um, but um, I would rather be cautious, and then come back and realize, oh, okay, I'll be softer with you next time. But this time, no,
yeah,
I'm not. I'm not going out. I'm going home. I know you want me to go. I don't want to. I want to go home.
and it's not because I don't love you. It's not because I don't value you. And oh my God, it's so important to have friends that understand that my no isn't a rejection towards
Yeah.
you. It's it's not a rejection towards you. It's an acceptance for me. It's prioritizing me. It's putting myself and prioritizing my what I need, my self care.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that, or they can't compartmentalize the two. They think no means you're rejecting me. You don't want to spend time with me. No, I do want to spend time with you, but that's not what's best for me right now.
Right.
So a lot of people,
Right.
and if you don't have emotionally intelligent friends that can decipher the two, they will literally try to they might curse you out, they may tear you down, they may but now you're trying to control control my energy, my that's not you know.
You know what I've realized is the people who have a biggest problem with my boundaries are the people who don't have a lot going on. No offense to the people. I don't know who's watching this. I feel like people who have hobbies, who have careers outside of a 9 to 5, or who have a 9 to 5 that they actually enjoy a lot. Like they understand when priorities come up. They understand when boundaries get set. They understand that you have other things to do because they themselves have other things to do. Um, and my circle is a lot like that, so I think that's very helpful. Now I do got a couple of people that will get mad if I'm not doing whatever they ask me to do, but um, I feel like as we get older, it just gets less
Yeah,
important. We prioritize ourselves.
yeah.
You realize how slimming time can be, um, and kind of puts an urgency on things.
Hmm. You know, this made me think of a part of my point, which is what I was just pulling up about boundaries. I put boundaries always come off as rude to folks who are accustomed to violating the soft parts of you. They only come off as rude to those people who are accustomed to violate because they are comfortable with trying to control, your space, your energy,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, we're gonna wrap this up soon because I know we've been and I want to get into your book, but I did want to ask you about you said that poetry was your saving grace. Can you elaborate like how is poetry your saving grace?
Um. First off, it gave me a way to express myself, right?
Hmm.
But at a time in which I was feeling isolated from a lot of people, I think it gave me a way to connect with others, right? And no matter what uh, dialect, no matter what city I might have been coming from, poetry was always the middle ground. It was always home base. It was always If I put this in a poem, you will understand it no matter how I say it, right? If I sound like a nerd and I put it in a poem, you're still gonna like it. If I sound like a
Yeah.
rapper and I put it in a poem, you're still going to like it. And so poetry was my way of connecting with other people. Um, that's how I started. Whether it was making friends in the church, that's where I started writing poems.
I'm like
Or
church and mental health. I wanted to talk about that.
oh yeah, oh
Talk
yeah.
about church and mental.
Um,
Just touch on it a little bit because I know we were talking about how church doesn't really bring that up, and I think you were saying something about how if a church doesn't speak about it.
yeah, if I feel that your church is not going to address mental health and encourage therapy, if they are definitely the pray about it and pray about it only type of church, I probably won't be going there. That's a boundary. Um, because I think, and I don't like to get like overly religious in my performances, because I want to also touch people who may not be religious. Um, but in my mind, God is a scientist. I think,
Oh, wait a minute.
right? The God is a scientist. He
Yeah.
doesn't just like wave a wand and things happen. He pushes a chemical. This
Mm.
fleck of dirt, if you pluck this fleck of dirt, it'll break off into a million pieces, and one of those pieces will fly through the air and get in your eye, and it'll become a chemical. I don't know.
Do you have
Um,
called God is a scientist?
I don't, but I want one now.
Okay, because I'm like, wait a minute. The way you're breaking this down, I feel like if he don't write it, I'm gonna have to figure this out and do.
Group peace.
But oh my, yes, I need to hear this poem that you're gonna write because I know it's gonna be amazing. God is a scientist. Y'all heard it here. Like, subscribe, follow the channel.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, but
give me some lines.
right.
Nah,
Oh my,
but that's something I believe. I believe he's a scientist. I believe they
mm,
are a scientist. I believe we try to. I do agree. If you don't understand something and you're a Christian, lean on God's understanding. Right? I agree with that. Um,
mm,
I also believe in education, and I want to understand a lot of things. So um, I dive into science, how the neurons work, and I don't think God is ignorant to science, right? I think if we believe that somebody created everything, we have to believe they created down to the microcosms,
no,
the DNA, the chemicals, the
oh,
emotions that are actually chemicals. Um,
mhm.
and so I feel like to address one and not the other is really a disservice to the way we live our lives now, right?
And-
I think the leaning on God's understanding would be great in the biblical times where science was not accessible. Now, science is very accessible, and we can prove a lot of the things or disprove a lot of the things that are not being taught, right? So,
mhm.
mental health as something that's swept under the rug, that's something we should be past at this point because scientifically we can prove the benefits of being mentally healthy.
Yeah, yeah. And I think so. I like that you said only pray about it because I think prayer is important.
Uh-huh.
Um, for me because I know what prayer does for me and what I've been through and what God has taught brought me through. But even just like you said, being educated, both are important, right?
Hmm.
Because even if you, for example, pray your way through things and get delivered from things, if you don't have the education on it, then and how to maintain your deliverance or to understand the science behind why you went through some of these things, you can find yourself ensnared and going through the same cycles over and over and over again because you're leaning on your own understanding, right? And
Hmm.
from do not lean on your own understanding and trust in the Lord is more so on a spiritual level versus a educational level. But I think both is important. I think that I can lean on the Lord for a spiritual understanding for things that only He knows because He's all knowing, right? So there are things that God knows that we don't know. If we
Hmm.
had the answers, then He wouldn't need to exist if we knew everything.
Right.
But I believe that with the information that we have, we should take advantage of it and educate ourselves. So I really love that because everything can't be solved by just reading and praying,
Right.
right?
Right.
Education, education, therapy, all of that is important in lieu with whatever you do for spiritual self-care maintenance. The education is just as important, so that you can be equipped with the tools to handle what you're going through as well and break through to the next level.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that because that is so 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 important. And I really
Absolutely.
you saying that, and as I was having this conversation with you, I think that it kind of sunk into my spirit even more so why education is important. When you were breaking down like the less learning your habits, and those were some of the things that came to me. This is why education is important.
Hmm. Yeah.
um yeah, so thank you so much for like I really want to get into your book now, which is Always Been Most High. Can you
Yes.
yes, can you tell me how what inspired this title? I still feel crooked. What inspired this title?
Um. It's so the book itself is loosely about addiction, right? Um. So it's always been most high in the form of a high as like a drug.
Mhm,
Um. And what I wanted to do was encourage people to find the most high within themselves,
mhm,
whether that be your religious aspect, finding God within yourself. I think all of us have God within ourselves. Um, or a non-religious aspect, just finding your best self without turning to a unnatural high, right?
oh,
Um, so I have sections in the book that talk about um, drugs and from a medicinal point, um, as well as addictions. And then it talks about healthier coping mechanisms like relationships, music, and passions, um, and not just like the healthy portions of those. It talks about some of the risks, unhealthy relationships,
mhm.
some of the injustices that can definitely lead to drug addiction, like the disparity in jail times, um, and payment. um, so it kind of dives into that as a way of exposing causes and giving alternatives.
I love that. So this is a whole study guide almost.
Yeah, and I'm a little goofy, so I try to make it entertaining. I always say that I was writing to like get my cousins to listen to my work, right? Because I was the nerd in the family. So if I wasn't like rapping or being funny or like saying something catchy, it was just nerdy. Um, and I don't know, my family again.
Yeah.
Um, so so I had to find a way to like help without being overly preachy, and I did that with comedy. I did that with punchlines. I did that with the metaphors and stuff like that. So it's definitely a message, but I try to be entertaining.
I love that. I feel like I've learned so much about you, even more so, and like this book sounds freaking amazing.
Thank you.
I would love to hear a piece from it if you don't mind sharing.
Absolutely. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. All right. So I am a performer. Um, and I do try to like coach people every now and then, sometimes. So this is how to spit fire in burn stages.
Mm.
Mm. Honestly, I have no idea. Um, I just know I got this burn mark on my wrist, right? Reminding me to turn to flames before I ever consider slitting it. It's arrow shaped and it points towards my writing hand. So I follow. I guess it's in my blood. My family has always turned to some type of heat for help, from pouring hydrogen peroxide over our open wounds and calling the hellfire that rained down healing, To
Mm,
this day, still forging cures from anything that burns. Y'all know how smoking burns lungs, liquor burns chests, guns burn bodies. Well, my
mm,
family is part pyromaniac. My
mm,
uncle played with matches in the closet. He burned the whole house down. Me and my cousin burned paper in bathrooms. We never got caught. You see, we're all guilty of fuming in the wrong places or
mm,
expressing anger too explosively. So on stage, I'm redirecting the fire from our veins because being quiet means choking on all the smoke we don't exhale. Call
mm,
it passion, but I fear my blood boils too fast. I
mm.
smoke gas to keep from getting heated. That's fighting fire with fire. We cope by cremating our problems. Moses heard God's voice in a burning bush. Maybe I burn trees for the same reason.
Ooh.
So desperate to evaporate the floods in our life, we risk becoming forest fires on family trees, i.e., the reason life leaves. My Uncle Naeem lets brown liquor burn through his chest daily. And I'm afraid the fire won't stop until we are crying over him, dousing it with tears. My Uncle Terrell turned the burner on himself. I've been afraid to own a gun ever since, for fear of following him into the same furnace. So instead, I might smoke, I might drink, or spit these flames for any pain I might be a dragon. This fire is a sanitizer. I mean, even my oven reaches 880 degrees in order to self clean all this heat, and we still think therapy ain't cool.
Mm,
We think we can melt away our problems, but the smoke only hides them. In hindsight, hydrogen peroxide has been found to halt instead of help the healing process. So maybe making torches of our bodies is not the healthiest way to get through dark times.
mm.
I know we all want to reach the beacon burning on the other end of our problems. But if all we do is turn to flames, then we'll be ashes before we see it. Thank you.
Oh gosh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. That was freaking amazing. See? See, just magical. Just you do it every time. You just blow me away with your poetry, with your
Thank
performance,
you. Thank you.
with everything, your lyricism, and the way that your wordplay, all of it. Mm, I love it. I feel like
Thank
you're
you. That's one of the. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was saying that's one of the first pieces in the book. Um, just trying to encourage my people to go to therapy instead of trying to drink or smoke it away. You know what I'm saying?
I like that. You did sneak that in there without it being preachy. I love it. I love
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like the way that you articulate it, I feel like you have one of those poetry books that you have to study. Kind of like Kendrick Lamar's bars.
I like that. Yeah. I
Yeah,
like that. I like to
yeah,
have like the
yeah,
multiple meanings, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was so powerful. So I know, like, if that's just one of the poems, I know this book is freaking amazing. Tell us, where can we find this book?
At JavonRustinPoetry.com or JavonRustin.com or just slide in the DMs, you know what I'm saying? I can hook you up with a book. But it's not on Amazon. I probably will have it out a couple of places later, but right now, directly through my website.
Okay. And you said slide in the DMs. Are you talking about like social media? If so, you want to give the people your so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you prefer to do Cash App or whatever, that's fine. But I'm shipping all the books personally, so whether
oh
it's the website or um, direct message, either way.
gotcha. And you're at Javon Rustin, right? That's your
Yeah,
everything's right for IG and everything.
yep.
Um, what was I saying? And do you have anything coming up or anything like that right now?
I got some competitions coming up. Southern Fried Poetry Slam is coming up.
Yeah,
Me and Locked and Loaded Poetry Slam are going down to Florida, hoping to take a victory. Um, I have Charm City Slam before that, and
busy.
look, I'm nervous about that one.
Yeah.
So competitions after Southern Fried, I have some local shows or East Coast shows, I should say, between like North Carolina and DMV. Um, but next year I have a big show, so anybody follow me, look out for a very big show next year. I can't give a lot of details about it right now, but
And
it's a year out, so it's gonna be big.
before we leave, because this is what's happening in the culture right now, right? Are you team Kendrick Lamar or are you team Drake?
You just compared me to Kendrick, so I can't be Team Drake. I can't be Team Drake after that. Nah, Kendrick. I, man, Drake. And look, I love hip hop. Look, man, so I could
Yeah,
talk about this
yeah,
for hours. Drake is like very catchy, right? Drake is very catchy, but Kendrick like dynamically
oh my God.
gave delivery. Like, bro, five different voices on one track for every song. And then he did Not Like Us, the dance joint. Why you gotta I would hate to have somebody dancing to a diss song of me. And it's
OD.
a great
Oh,
dance song. Like, step this way. Sir, get this off the radio. They should have a decease and desist on that song.
and I do feel like Drake gave up. Like I literally feel like he gave up in his last song, like his last track. He literally was just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, and I hope Kendrick keeps going. I
Yeah.
hope Kendrick keeps going.
Did you
Now,
know?
don't get me wrong. I like Drake, and I like when Drake talks junk,
Yeah.
but I only like when Drake talks junk. Like I don't like when Drake is melodic, um, and so he talked junk, which I like, but he didn't do it better than Kendrick. So
That's all it is. Because people think that you're hating on them. If you no, it's just you can't compare. Like for example, Kendrick Lamar. You know the whole A minor bar, trying to strike a chord, and you're probably A
A
minor.
minor.
You know that Meet the Grams was done in A minor,
I did not. That's crazy.
and did you know that A minor in A minor you don't play any black keys? It's another way of him calling him white. See, this is what he does.
I didn't know what the
Intentionality in
he
how he
said
is destroying.
V12. That's a fast one. I thought he was talking about the engine.
Yeah,
V12 is the liposuction machine.
yeah, yeah. It's just another level. That's all it is. It's just another level. You can like
Yeah,
both, but one is clearly what a Pulitzer Prize winner,
yeah,
clearly a scholar of words. So you just can't compare the two. That's all it is. And people who enjoy like wordplay and all those things, you're gonna like Kendrick more. That's it. That's all.
yeah.
But
The artist is gonna rock with Kendrick.
that's
I
it.
feel like it's gonna come down to artist and 9 to 5ers.
I think I'm gonna start making that like if I go on a date, I'm gonna have to ask. That's gonna be the to continue or not. But look, I've had so much fun during this interview. Thank you so much for joining the Speak Life podcast.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Speak life.
you dropped so many gems. You empowered us. You spoke about mental health. You shared poetry. I'm so excited for all the wonderful things that are happening in your life and the opportunities that are coming to you. So I'm going to speak life. 'Cause why not? Right?
Yes,
I speak
yes,
blessings. I speak more opportunities. I speak that eyes haven't seen and ears haven't heard all that God has for you. I speak that you're going to be in places, your name is going to be mentioned in places that people think that you're not even qualified for. I speak that people are going to be in different countries talking about your poem, viral moments where people are going to be requesting you, highly requested for all the things that are in your life. My God, I feel the Lord on this. I speak positivity. I speak blessings on blessings, like racks on racks. I just
yes, yes.
that more and more and more is coming for you to never give up, to keep on putting God first, and to just keep doing what's in your heart and soul that others may get mental health, get the healing they need, get the impact that they need. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bless you.
thank you, thank you again for having me.
Yes.
Um, Anybody watching? Hope you enjoy.
Yes. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Absolutely.